Mrs. Spears. Might as well. I'm walking through a ghost town, y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down, don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong, don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. Yeah, we're lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, wheels stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Hey, red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine, whether you're watching live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or on Roku TV. Thanks to the fine people over there at Northeast Sports Productions. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, how are you on a Monday?
I'm doing great. Starting the week off talking sports with you and everybody out there listening. I'm always doing great.
So, Mo, we have talked a lot through the NBA playoffs about the past demons of the Boston Celtics. And I think that all of the conversations and all the narratives have been fair, because you have, until you do it, we're going to talk about how you haven't done it, especially if you've been supposed to be doing it for years now, and you've come close to doing it, and you've been in the conversation for doing it, and for whatever reason you haven't. So until you actually get there, those questions are going to keep popping up. But after game 2, Mo, I think we are officially in a position to where we're I think we're almost checking off all those boxes now, except for actually doing it. I think we've checked off a lot of those. Well, what if? And I think Boston has proven everything they needed to prove in games. They had a blowout in game 1. Can when they need to, Mo, can they play the best team in basketball? Check. Well, what happens when the game is close? Because Luka and Kyrie, they're killers, and they got that instant. They won a close game. This was a close game. This was a game where they were down after the first quarter. It was a close game at halftime. It was a close game throughout the third quarter. There were a couple times in the fourth quarter where you're like, maybe Dallas is going to get back. Nope. Boston did what they had to do. They won a close game. Now they're up 2-0. We've never really had a question about Boston holding a lead in a series. They've never really been known as a team to collapse in a series. So if that were to happen, that would be a new narrative. Knock on wood if you're a Boston Celtics fan, that's not the next thing that we're talking about with your team. But outside of that, Mo, they've answered the questions they had to answer. Can they flex their muscles and be the best team in basketball? Yes, they can. Can they win a close game against Dallas where, people think that Dallas has the 2 better closers than they do? Oh, yes, they can. Now, obviously, things could change when you leave home court, and we'll see. We'll see what that looks like, because, there's some people have the mindset, Mo, of, well, until you lose a home game or until you win a game on someone else's home court, it's not really, we're not really there yet. So someone has to win a game on the other person's home court, and then the series is a series. So we'll see. I mean, if Dallas goes and wins all their home games, this is a different conversation in a week. Is it not, Mo?
No question. If the Mavs turn around and protect their home court, we're on pace for a 7-game series. But I think with what you led with, the Celtics taking care of their home business, all the pressure switched to the Mavs. They have to win both home games. They can't let Boston even get one. So I think all the pressure has switched to Luka and Kyrie, and rightfully so. If you've watched the first 2 games of the series, what hasn't happened is we haven't gotten the dynamic duo from Dallas. Kyrie Irving is shooting 35% for this series. He's yet to make a three-pointer in this series. I don't think he's had a real impact on this series yet. And that's crazy to say that because they're down 2-0. And he's not the superstar, Chris, that's shooting the worst statistically. Jason Tatum is shooting 31% for this finals, and his team is up 2-0. Like, if you told me that Tatum was going to struggle that mightily with his shot, but they would still find a way to win, I would say if you're a Mavs fan, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and that is the crazy part. And we alluded to this a week and a half ago, was that it almost doesn't matter what Tatum does in this series as long as Boston wins. Because we agreed that, in an ideal world, Tatum plays well. He has the signature moment. He is the MVP. But we also said he doesn't care as long as they get the chip, because he doesn't need to be the reason they won the title, but he can't be the reason they lose the title. And if they were down 0-2 and he's shooting barely 31% from the field, then he is the reason they're losing this series. And it's a whole different narrative right now in Boston. Because I saw the Boston headlines, Mo, and those Boston headlines are team rallies. Team comes together and supports each other. Team picks up Tatum. It's a lot of rah-rah. It's a lot of cheerleading. It's a lot of we are one talk in Boston right now. And you know what, Mo? You know when that kind of talk works? When you're winning. Correct. When you're winning, it's a team effort. When you're winning, it's rah-rah. When you're winning, it's okay if the superstar isn't playing like the superstar. But when you're losing and the ship is sinking, Mo, we all know who goes down first. Whether they want to go down or they're being pulled down with everybody else, we know who's going down first. And it's usually the star of the team. So I agree that Tatum is definitely flying under the radar here. And I guess if you want to create a narrative, you can say, well, Chris, if Tatum continues not to play well over the next two games, then and Dallas wins those games and now we're tied, well, now the spotlight's going to be right. You're right. It will be. And fairly so. Because the only thing that covers up playing poorly is winning. So if Boston decides they're not going to win the next two games, then rightfully so, that entire team is going to be under a microscope because they're no longer winning. At that point, they will have lost two in a row. So you can have it both ways. You can have it as, well, we're not really going to talk about Tatum and we're going to go rah-rah and we're going to be all for one because it works when you're winning. If we're tied in a few days, then you're no longer winning, Mo. So, of course, Tatum and his company are going to be under the spotlight because at that point, they're not winning anymore.
No question. And you know how this goes. Usually your role players play their best or shoot their best when they're at home. Celtics are getting ready to go on the road. I would say Jaylen Brown has been solid, but the reason why they're up 2-0, yeah, it's been a collective, but it's been the timely plays on both sides of the floor by Derek White and Jrue Holiday. That's the reason why they're up 2-0. And I said going into this series, it's not about locking down Kyrie and Luka. It's making sure you make them play defense. It's making sure you attack them. Now, in Jrue's case, it's different because they play him in a unique spot on offense because a lot of the time they actually put him on the baseline or in that dunker's role, if you will. And what Jason Tatum is doing very well, and Jaylen Brown is, they're attacking the paint, getting downhill, and creating opportunities for their teammates. And last night, Tatum had 12 assists. So you can impact the game in other ways than scoring, and he has done that to his credit. He's been very good on defense as well. In any switch, Jason Tatum has played at a high level. Jaylen Brown is playing elite defense. They're literally right now winning this finals as a team. There is no one player that you could say it's his finals. You could argue that right now, 2 games in, Jrue Holiday has as good a shot as anybody to be finals MVP 2 games in. That said, when you look at what Luka is doing on the Dallas side, Luka's shooting 50, I think almost 51% from the field, over 40% from 3. He's giving you 30, 10, 8, which is very Luka-like. What he needs He needs his sidekick. He needs his guy, Kyrie Irving. They need big games in Dallas for Kyrie. And I don't know if maybe Kyrie's history with Boston and or his relationship with that city played a role in how he played, because he didn't look like the same player that we saw versus the Timberwolves versus Oklahoma City. And if they don't get that guy back, this is going to be a very short series.
And Mo, it's not an argument. Kyrie isn't a 1. Kyrie has all the talent in the world to be a 1, but Kyrie isn't a 1. He has proven throughout his career that he's not a 1. He was a 2 with Cleveland to LeBron. They thought he was going to be a 1, and that's why he went to Boston initially, and he couldn't be a 1 in Boston. They thought he could potentially be a pseudo 1 with Brooklyn alongside KD, and they were going to say, well, we're going to bring in like 3 1s, and like we're not going to say who's a 1, 2, or 3, and everyone's going to be a 1 at 1. Well, we saw how that worked. It didn't. So, he finds his spot here in Dallas where he was never expected to be the 1. He was never asked to be the 1. Luka was always the 1, and he thrived in that, did Kyrie. But then you think about, well, look at all the narrative. Look at all the storylines. Kyrie going back to Boston. Kyrie finally getting a chance for that title without LeBron. Kyrie finally able to kind of put a different shine on his career, because that's what this is, Mo. If Kyrie wins another chip, it doesn't take away the Boston and the Brooklyn years, but it does put a different perspective on his career. The fact that he was able to come through those situations and still play at a level in which he was the second best player on a championship team, just like he was the second best player on a championship team with LeBron. That's a different perspective on the latter part of a career with somebody that people will easily say had all the talent and all the potential and all the ceiling in the world. But Mo, we both know if they don't win this championship, no one talks about Kyrie in 20 years and goes, well, he got to that 1 in Dallas and, he was so close. No one talks about that. No one talks about the one he got to but didn't win. They just say, yeah, all the talent in the world. His ceiling was so high. He won his championships with LeBron early on. And then it was just kind of a mess after that. Boston was a mess. Brooklyn was a mess. Dallas was all right, but they didn't accomplish anything. That's all it is. And it becomes a footnote. So maybe it's the pressure. Maybe Kyrie realizes that, subconsciously in the back of his mind, in the front of his mind, Kyrie's a different cat. He thinks differently about things. We know that. We don't know. So maybe it's just one of those situations where Mo, maybe it's getting to him a little bit in games 1 and 2. He's not playing well. That's obvious. And maybe some home cooking is exactly what he needs to get his swagger back.
I think he needs some home cooking, but also Jason Kidd, he needs to run some actions that get Kyrie going downhill or at least in ISO situations, because right now the Celtics are doing a great job individual defense, but they're doing a really good job with their team defense, because every time he has the ball, they're hedging his way, trying to cut off any driving lanes. They've made it tough on him. They have 4 guys who can at least compete with him and contest his shots, and it is having an effect on him. They also have 4 guys who, when he's guarding any of the 4, can attack him as well. And I think that does take a toll on him. Boston is a completely different monster from anything that he's faced in the West, because when you look at OKC, for instance, you knew that in late game situations, they were Shea, Gilders, Alexander heavy. When you looked at Minnesota, same thing with Ant-Man. Well, when Boston, even though we recognize that Tatum or Brown are the 2 best players, that doesn't mean they'll take the biggest shots. It could be Holiday. It could be Derek White. It might be an Al Horford 3. Porzingis has played well, although he did get injured last night, and we don't know what his status is. But all I'm saying is Boston have multiple guys who can take and make big shots. The Dallas Mavericks have 2 guys. And if they don't have both of them playing at a high level, it's a struggle. Luka's putting up tremendous numbers, but it's going to be a frustration if they don't result in wins. Now, to be fair, I want to remind everybody, it's not like Dallas won 63 games. They won 50 games, which is good. It's solid, but they weren't the second best team in the West. I think they were fifth or sixth. What happened was they got on a run, which happens sometimes, and they've been tremendous in the postseasons. But I believe, and maybe I'm alone on this island, is I think that the Western Conference, so much happened depended on the matchups. Minnesota knocking off Denver, that gave Dallas life, in my opinion. I don't think Dallas would have gave Denver any trouble at all. But Minnesota was built to beat Denver. And I think the stars just aligned. I'm not in no way saying the Mavericks can't come back and win this series. What I am saying is a lot of us were saying, look how tough the West is and how easy the Celtics had it. And maybe, just maybe, things just lined up well for the Mavericks. It's not like, again, they didn't get to play the Nuggets. But they are playing the Celtics. And I would say that even though I thought, and I was wrong, that the Nuggets would be playing the Celtics in the finals, at worst, though, they still are playing, to me, the second best team, at least throughout the regular season in the NBA. And there is a separation between these two teams.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's get JG in here this morning. We got some Major League Baseball stuff to talk about. JG is coming up on the stage. JG, how are you this morning, sir?
Good morning. Good morning from sunny California, guys. How are y'all?
What's up, JG?
JG, you're such a world traveler. Let's jump into some Major League Baseball stuff, JG. For obvious reasons, you know that when Pedro Martinez talks, I don't really necessarily listen. Not the biggest Pedro guy. It's just weird. Like whenever I see Pedro on the screen, like in my mind, I'm just like, who's your daddies? Who's your daddies, Pedro? That's all I can really think of when I see Pedro Martinez. It's weird how that works. But Pedro was talking last week, JG, and he was talking specifically about Gunnar Henderson. And he made a pretty interesting statement. And, you know, he said the word could. So he didn't really marry his name to the statement, because when you say could, you really open the door to walk away from the comment, because in theory, anyone could do something. But we're going to dive a little further deeper into his statement. He said that Gunnar Henderson could be better than Derek Jeter and Cal Ripken. So obviously he's taking Gunnar Henderson, who is the shortstop of the Baltimore Orioles, and he's just picking two of the other shortstops that were well known in that division. I think it's interesting he didn't include a Boston Red Sox shortstop in that's all right. You know, that's all right. You know, if you don't got him, you don't got him. Although I did like Nomar. I was a Nomar guy, but I understand why he didn't go Nomar. But talk to me about his statement. Gunnar Henderson, is he going to be up there in the conversations with a Derek Jeter or with a Cal Ripken, you know, 20 years from now, when you're saying who were some of the greatest shortstops ever to play in the AL East?
I kind of view that unfair at this stage. And, you know, we had this conversation in other sports about young players coming up and saying and comparing them to Hall of Famers. I actually did that, you know, with Paul Skeens. I said, you know, Paul Skeens is, you know, I know Roger Clemens is not in the Hall of Fame, but Paul Skeens is this generation's Roger Clemens, and he's going to be on track to be in the Hall of Fame if he pitches like he essentially has pitched in the beginning part of his career. But in baseball, it's a lot harder to have that conversation because there's so much up and down, ebb and flow of a player's trajectory that we see. And, you know, we don't really have it. We don't really know. It's easier in other sports, in the NBA and in NFL, to make that comparison because the consistency is much. I won't necessarily say easier, but it's easier to predict, you know, for what a player can do throughout their career. Justin Jefferson is on a Hall of Fame trajectory right now, beginning part of his career, because he's put up numbers in the first 4 years that we've never seen before. Did we predict that when he got into the league? No. But as we've gone into the first 4 years, we are now sitting here saying Justin Jefferson is on pace to be a Hall of Famer. For Gunnar Henderson and for what Pedro Martinez said, it's unfair because at this point right now, we don't know. We don't know what can happen through Gunnar's career. Can he be as good? Now, the question was, can he be just as good as Derek Jeter and Cal Ripken? Well, yeah, he can be just as good, but at the same time, you're talking about a shortstop that has made a career as one of the most clutch players in postseason and World Series history. In Derek Jeter, you're talking about a legend at shortstop who played the most consecutive games in baseball history. Like I said, it's unfair to Gunnar at this point because again we're still so new to his career that we have to see a little bit more. He's a 259 hitter. He's played really well on one of the better teams in baseball right now, but there's still so much to be seen out of Gunnar Henderson to sit there and say, yes, we're comparing him that he will be just as good, if not better, than two of the better shortstops in the American League East, let alone two of the better shortstops of the last 35, 40 years. I'm not going to jump on that train and agree with Pedro just yet because I think it's too early to really tell. But is he capable? Well, of course, I think he's capable. I think Gunnar Henderson is absolutely capable to be in the conversation. I just don't think I think it's too early right now to sit there and say, yes, he's going to be as good, if not better, than Jeter and Ripken Jr.
JG, this has become a continuing trend in Major League Baseball, and it's the one thing that Major League Baseball most likely desperately wants to get away from, and that is gambling on the sport of baseball. Last week, a few more dominoes fell, not related to Shohei Ohtani, but there was an infielder from I want to say it was the Padres.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I am not going to attempt to pronounce his name. He is a former Pirate. He's a very young player too. He was banned. He was banned from baseball for betting on baseball, and then 4 other minor leaguers were involved in this as well, and they each received 1-year suspensions. JG, I know this isn't the name recognition of a Shohei Ohtani, but you don't have to realize, you understand that every time this comes up, because I read like 3 articles on this, and every article is basically the same. The first 2 paragraphs were about him and the minor leaguers, and what were the next 5 paragraphs about? Shohei Ohtani, because that's the bigger story in all of this. And for the next X amount of time, every time there is a gambling and baseball thing, what name are they going to pull into this? Shohei Ohtani. And it wasn't any new Shohei information, is what we already knew. And it said in all 3 articles that he was found of no wrongdoing by Major League Baseball. But JG, you don't want the face of your sport to continually be brought up in these conversations every time it happens. And literally, this was with a guy that was, he was a prospect with the Pirates. He never really did anything. He comes over to the Padres and he bounces up and down between the majors and the minors. He's by no means a name in baseball, but once you start talking about gambling on baseball, it's right back to Shohei Ohtani. And I'm sure Major League Baseball is like, oh my gosh, can we stop? Can we just stop bringing up his name with that? Because you don't want people associating him with that. You don't want that to be a word association game that we're playing, especially when he's been found of no wrongdoing. You don't want that happening. But JG, you talked about this, and I don't think it's the steroid. It's not the steroid level of what was going on in Major League Baseball, but this is kind of the current day version of it. Because every time you think that we're done talking about betting on baseball, lo and behold, somebody else bets on baseball or bets on sports while in Major League Baseball, and we're just having the same conversation over and over again. If you're the commissioner of Major League Baseball, what do you do? Because even if it's not going to be something that your regime takes care of, whatever regime comes in after you, this needs to be addressed, because you have to stop having these conversations year in and year out about gambling on baseball and suspending people for gambling or banning people. This, you need at some point to not be in this spot. But what does that look like, JG?
The issue again is still, and kind of talking about Ohtani, is Major League Baseball is still brushing it under the rug as quickly as possible. And that's why, again, that's what the speculation continues to come up, is why are you – I get, if you did an investigation, which they've done investigation in Major League Baseball that took years. Mm-hmm. We've seen it. We've seen the federal government who was involved in the gambling situation with Ohtani and his interpreter. That in federal government investigations, we've seen in recent years in recent times with our government, they take a very long time, and they took very, very little time. I said this with you guys. They took very, very little time to investigate, Ohtani and his interpreter in that situation. And again, if they would have provided a little bit, I guess if they would have provided a little bit more insight to it, maybe we'd be a little bit more comfortable on what took place. But the stories kept on changing but that's where it starts. And then Marcano, this situation with Marcano, pops up. I don't know if that's a coincidence. I don't think that's a coincidence, because there has been rumblings of gambling issues in baseball. That's why this is popping up right now, is over the last few years. Now, I have a few. Now, I'm making a joke in the situation here. I have a few friends of mine who do gamble, and I shared the story with them, and they, it showed that he was, very, very poor at gambling, and he bet on his own team with the Pirates. And a few of them go, did he not know how bad the Pirates are, and you bet on the Pirates, to win? So that's again the poor joke on that side of it. This is a problem. This is a problem that Major League Baseball is in. Again, as you said, it's not to the steroid scandal level just yet, but that's the fear in Major League Baseball right now is yet. Are there more situations? Because we're seeing in all sports right now. We had it in the NFL, Calvin Ridley, Jameson Williams. We had it in the NBA, Jonte Porter. There is becoming a little bit of an issue right now in gambling in sports, and gambling on your sport that you play. And I don't think this is going to be an isolated incident. I think there is going to be more issues. And I think behind closed doors, there's some fear in Major League Baseball with the A's going to Vegas, because that was always the biggest concern. Is a team going to Vegas. It opens the door of gambling for athletes. Now, hypocritical, because the leagues, all leagues, MLB, NBA, NFL, they're all pocketing money from Caesars, from MGM, from DraftKings and FanDuel. ESPN has their own part of the website where it's called ESPN Bet. They are all pocketing money of gambling. So that's the hypocritical side. But it is no excuse for athletes to bet on their own sport, because, again, I said with you guys and I said with others, your first day as a professional athlete, you have a meeting with your team, you have a meeting with your team representatives, and you have a meeting, even in the minors, you have a meeting with people associated in the offices of Major League Baseball, minor league baseball. And the first thing that is talked about in that meeting is you can't gamble on baseball. It is part of the meeting. It's not a secret. It's in every clubhouse in the sport, whether you are in the major leagues or the minor leagues, you are not allowed to gamble on baseball. There's no excuses. And I think Major League Baseball is afraid a little bit of more of what might be coming out here. And as you said, what's going to happen? How does Manfred handle this? We know Manfred's retiring in 5 years. I think this is where I go. This will be my last point on it. I think this is going to be Manfred's Bud Selig moment of steroid scandal in the 90s, where he is going to kind of just push it to the side and say it's not really my problem because I'm not going to be here much longer.
JJ, you mentioned the Athletics. A fun story popped up about them. They are not even in their new city yet. Their new stadium has not even been built yet, JG. And they are already trying to figure out a way to play home games not at home. They are trying to finagle a way where once they move to Las Vegas in this multi-billion-dollar stadium that is not completely funded yet, that is not built yet, they already want to play 8 home games a year not at home, because they're trying to draw more attention to themselves through marketing and grow their fan base by playing 8 home games a year somewhere else. JG, nothing says getting into a new relationship. Like, listen, hon. I'm committed to you. I love you. I think we got what it takes to go the distance. But a few times a year, I need to be single. I just need to be free, and I need you to be okay with that. A few times a year, I got to go out there and just show the market that I still got it, and I want to bring in new fans. And you're okay with that, right? Like, we're good. We're good. I'm invested in you, but I need you to be okay with me spreading my wings. What the hell is going on, JG? How is that even a talking point? And why would anyone agree to it? And where are they going to play? Where are these random 8 games a year going to be? And who's going to go to them? Because newsflash, A's, you suck. You're not a good baseball team. So unless you magically become a good baseball team where you're essentially a away draw, right? Because that's what this is. You essentially would have to draw numbers. You're going to be the home team, but really you're the away team. And usually only good baseball teams draw numbers on the road. And I'm sorry, A's, you've never really been that. JG, I can't even make heads or tails of this.
So what you're saying is the Oakland A's are seeking their own hall pass?
Essentially. One they have not earned, by the way.
You see my reaction to I read this story. I didn't even read it, actually. I saw the headline on Bleacher Report, and I didn't even want to read the article. Do they not understand? And much like you said, it's not even necessarily you have to be a good team. You have to have the name brand of your organization is why you draw. The Yankees for a while, who are not when they weren't even really that good, they still go and sell out ballparks on the road. Like, you still have fans that travel and go want to see, or even the home fans want to go see the Yankees travel to their ballpark. I living in Dallas Fort Worth, and I hear, hey, Yankees are in town, they're playing the Rangers. And, when the Rangers were not even really that good for, a while, they're averaging 20,000 people in the ballpark in Arlington, and then the Yankees come in town, it balloons up to 38,000 people. Red Sox the same way. You had 18, day game in Texas. You get 15,000 people show up on a 105-day in Texas, but the Red Sox show up in town and you have 30,000 people show up. The Atlanta Braves the same. Chicago Cubs the same. The name brand of the organization is why people come and watch. Now, I don't know if the people in the offices of the A's really understand how you actually grow your brand. Much like you said, you have to win, number one. But you attract fans to your ballpark. Isn't that why you're building this brand new state-of-the-art ballpark? You get people to come watch you in your own stadium. So, and then here's my next question I want to ask the people in the A's front office. If you play at a neutral site, how many ballparks in the country are to the standards of Major League Baseball, where you have 30,000 to 35,000 people coming, to be able to sit and watch a game? How many of them? Oh, there's 30 of them. There's 30 stadiums that have that capacity to fit, because that's the regulations. Minor league ballparks don't have that. So are you going to go where are you going to play at? Where these neutral site games are you going to go play at that you can fit to the standards and regulations that Major League Baseball wants their stadiums to be able to fill? Where are you going to play? Are you going to make? Are they going to make other cities? Are they going to make Portland build a stadium for them just to travel and play a series at? Are they going to go to Laramie, Wyoming? Are they going to go to South Dakota? Where are you going to go to play neutral site games and expect crowds to show up to watch you play? And if you're the Yankees and you have a series against the A's, do you really want to travel to anywhere else to go play? Or if you're the Dodgers and you get a series against the A's and they're saying, hey, we're going to play our series, because that's what they're going to do. Their A's are going to put, for those, series that they play that are a neutral site, they're not going to do it against the Marlins. They're not going to do it against the Diamondbacks. They're not going to do it against the Brewers. They're going to have it be the Yankees and Dodgers and Red Sox and Braves and Phillies and the big market teams to go play at those stadiums, because they're going to look at it and say, see, we're drawing a crowd, but it's not really us. It's the team that they're playing against that's drawing the crowd. And if you're those teams, are you interested in flying to Portland to play a series? Are you interested in flying, again, Bozeman, Montana? We're going to talk about playing a game in Bozeman, Montana? This makes no sense, what they're trying to achieve. And like you said, if you're Vegas and you're like, y'all are asking us to build a stadium for you, and you're not even going to play the entire 81 games in the ballpark we're trying. It makes no sense. I've been done with the ownership of the A's for a very long time, and this is just absolutely mind-boggling. It continues to get worse and worse as we get going.
JG, you look at a team like the A's, they don't spend a lot of money. The logistics to make this happen, who's paying for it? You're taking a field that is not Major League. So even if, let's say it was another Major League Baseball stadium, at that point, you're at least paying for the field to look like your home stadium. You're not going to play a home game in Philadelphia with the Phillies stuff all over the field, and it just looks like it's the A's and the Yankees playing in Philadelphia, and it's all weird for everyone because it's all decked out in Phillies stuff. So at the minimum, if you're going to another team's Major League Baseball park, which they don't want to do, by the way, you have to deck it out and make it look like an A's game. But now you're going to a place that isn't another team's Major League Baseball park. So who is paying to make it be okay to play Major League Baseball on? The team in the A's, who never wants to pay anybody anything, they're now going to pay it. You're talking about millions of dollars, JG, when it's all said and done.
We'll throw this out there too. It's a neutral site game, right? That's what they're wanting, is to have it. So if you have the A's and Yankees, and they're saying we're going to play, we're going to play a game in Portland. Portland's got a 25,000 seat stadium. Let's just say 25,000 seat stadium. We're going to play a neutral site game. You don't think the Yankees are going to go, okay, we'll do it. We get half the revenue.
Right. Where's our cut?
We're going to get half the revenue. So what good for that's how neutral site games work. We see that all the time in college football. When you have colleges play at a neutral site, they split the revenue. Like, you're not taking the entire cut if it's a neutral site game. That doesn't work that way. It doesn't. So where are you growing? Where are you growing your brand if you're the A's? And really, you're spending money that you don't want to spend in the process and not making as much money. It's marketing 101. I mean, I wasn't a marketing guy. I have a journalism degree. I didn't go to marketing school or whatnot, but damn, I have an idea of what marketing is. That if you're going to play neutral site games, you're spending money. You're spending more money than you're making because you have to split the revenue with the team you're playing against. No team is going to agree that you get 100% of the cut of a neutral site game, and we get the experience. We get the experience of playing. Is that what it is? No, that's not how that works.
We had a really great time playing against the A's this weekend in Portland.
Go to the Field of Dreams games they do in Iowa. Like that, that's an experience. That is an experience that they do. The Field of Dreams. They play at the Field of Dreams Stadium and everything like that. But guess what? It's a neutral site game, and the teams split the revenue. There's not a lot of stadium revenue out of that, but they split the TV revenue of that game. So there's a precedent set in Major League Baseball of doing neutral site games and doing so by splitting the revenue of it. You're going to have to do the same thing. The London series that was just played with the Phillies and Mets, they split the revenue of that. It's It's a common practice. So if you're the A's, again, you're asking to play neutral site games. You're spending more money than you're making because you're not making as much in it because you're going to have to throw the revenue to the team, your opponent you're playing in a ballpark that is not built to be a major league ballpark. Again, you're not playing it in neutral site. You're not going to go to Seattle and like you said, you're not going to play neutral site games in other major league ballparks. It's just not going to happen. No team in Major League Baseball is going to agree to that. No, they won't. That is stupid. If the A's actually think that other major league cities and other major league teams will be like, yeah, hey, come play 8 games here. No, that's not going to happen. So they're going to.
JG, we'll end on that note. We appreciate having you on here every morning, sir. We'll see you later on in the week. All right.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys.
Good one, JG.
Mo, I don't know if you're looking for a side hustle or not, but maybe you just want to start like marketing 101 and you just want to pitch it to the A's. That's the only client you need. I think they'll pay for it. I think
there's an opportunity there. Yeah, there's an opportunity there.
Mo, let's talk a little Los Angeles Lakers news because there's a lot of things going on with the Lakers right now. So they meet with Hurley on Friday. They make the pitch of all pitches. And coming out of that meeting, of course, there's going to be all these rumors. How did the meeting go? What is his mindset? How do the Lakers feel about it? And throughout the weekend, it seemed pretty consistent that A, he was considering the offer. He didn't refuse them in the meeting. So he was at least open to it, which you alluded to in the first place, Mo, when you said, well, if he's meeting with them, he's considering it. Like if he's going to listen, he's at least open to hearing what it is. So he's at least a little bit interested, even if it's, even if it's 99-1, that one still wants to hear what it is. And you will see if the offer makes that one grow. But over the weekend, Mo, there was consistent reporting that he was about 50-50. He was about 50-50 on his interest in the position. And then it comes out that he is taking today as well. He is going to take the day today to continue to mull it over before he comes up with a decision. So he's taking an extra day. They thought they would have an answer today, but he's going to take today as well. And also in this process, Mo, we have a new name. A new name has emerged in this coaching race for the Los Angeles Lakers, and that is Jay Wright. Now Jay Wright's name is being tossed in there as a potential candidate if they don't land Hurley. But Mo, let's start with Hurley. You've heard all the rumor and innuendo. He was at least willing to hear. Then he was 50-50. Now he's taking another day. Mo, where do you think it ends up with Hurley?
I think that this speaks to how close his ties are to UConn. The fact that he's mulling it over, like the Lakers probably, from what I heard, put out an incredible presentation. Like he came away very impressed, and yet he just came away impressed. They didn't make the presentation. He's like, "You got me. I'm sold. This is everything I've ever wanted." I think that his ties to UConn run so deep. He's probably where Coach K was at when the Lakers came calling for him. He was flattered. He was blown away by the offer. And yet, to me, my gut instinct says that because, they're thinking the more he thinks about it means it's good for the Lakers. I think it means that he's leaning towards going back to UConn. That's my gut feeling. And there's nothing wrong with that. I get it. The offer is great, right? They're talking about over $100 million. And whether it goes left or right or whatever, the money is going to be banked. And I think he's a tremendous coach. So this is, if you're asking me, do I think he has what it takes to be successful at the NBA level? There's no question. Although I've watched him for a number of years, what I will say, and I've heard other people say this, and they're right, he runs hot almost all the time. Like he invests so much emotion in every single game. Now you're talking about him doing that in an 82-game schedule. By the time they're at the end of the regular season, the few hairs that he has on top of his head, they won't be there anymore. You don't have that many already, but they won't be there. I just think that I get why the Lakers targeted him, why they're going after him. Big picture, though, my gut instinct is he returns to UConn.
Well, I'm actually right there with you. I think that the longer it takes, the better the chance he returns to UConn. And I think this almost entirely has to do with the three-peat. I really, truly believe if they didn't just come off a national title this past season, if they won the one 2 years ago, and then they didn't win the one this year, let's say they made it there. They made it to the national title game and they lost. So he's gone to back-to-back national titles. I still think he leaves. But how do you walk away from a potential three-peat in college basketball? I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you walk away from a situation where, because in theory, if they really like you, Mo, if they really, really like you, won't the opportunity be there again? Like in theory, if they like you as much as it looks like the Lakers like him, in 2 or 3 years, might the opportunity be there again? Like, can't you go to Jeannie and be like, listen, I would love to do this. I really, really would. But it can't happen this year, and here's why. If you just want to put in a 1-year plan, if you want the assistant coach to just be the interim head coach for a year, however you want to do it, I'm not going to tell you how to run your franchise, but I'll tell you how you get me. And how you get me is I need to see the three-peat through. And if we win the third in a row, I'm gonna need at least one more year. This might be a 2-year wait, but I guarantee you it won't be more than 2. If we win titles the next 2 years and we four-peat, I will walk away after 4. But if we don't win the title this year, I'm your head coach the following. Like you put out there your perfect situation for Jeannie, and then let her figure out the rest. Because isn't that what the Lakers do, Mo? Isn't that what the Lakers are known for? The stars give their requests, they give their demands, and the Lakers say, let us make it work. Let us figure out the minutia of the situation. We just need to know what it's going to take you to get your name on the dotted line. So if they want him that bad, and he's willing to come, and he's transparent with why he wants to stay or what needs to happen before he makes the jump, I can see the Lakers feeding into that. If he's really the guy and they really think he is the guy. And by the way, is it the worst thing ever? Is it the worst thing ever to not have him coach LeBron? Like, maybe that's in the back of his mind too. Maybe in the back of his mind, he's like, maybe LeBron won't be there after this year, and I don't have to worry about that. You know what I mean? Like, and I understand. And who would lose in this situation? LeBron. This is the worst possible situation for LeBron James, which might be the exact reason why the Los Angeles Lakers would never do it, because there's no way you sell this to LeBron. There's no way you go to LeBron and you're like, well, he really wants to come, LeBron, but he doesn't want to come this year, which means that it's not going to be a throwaway year. No, LeBron, we're not throwing anything away. We love you, and we want to win titles with you, LeBron, but we're just going to take a unique approach. LeBron's he's not going to sign off on that, Mo. So the Lakers they're in a tough spot right now, because he apparently is the guy you want, and he has this huge thing that is pulling him to stay at UConn for at least one more year. But you also got this guy, LeBron James, who you know is going to opt out, and who you know is going to sit there and be like, did you do everything I wanted you to do? Did you do enough for me? And if the answer is no, you're going to lose him. It's not a good place to be right now for the Lakers, Mo.
It's not, but to your point, another guy comes in there, another name is put up there, Jay Wright. And just for the record, I believe Jay Wright has won 2 national titles of his own.
Mm-hmm.
And so he comes in with a resume that is as good as Hurley's, what he did with Villanova. I actually thought going into this offseason, and I kid you not, long before they mentioned J.J. Redick, I actually thought the first name that the Lakers would place a call to would be Jay Wright, because he had already severed his ties with Villanova and he'd been away from the game for 2 or 3 years. So I thought Jay Wright, here he is. There's a big gap between he and his connection to Villanova. He's up in the announcer's booth doing a studio show. I think now would be the time to approach him. And of course, I didn't know that they were going after Hurley as well. But look, if they don't get Bob Hurley, who's a great coach, but they're able to get Jay Wright, I honestly don't think that's a drop off. They're literally equal. They're literally equal. The only difference is Hurley has the opportunity, if he should return, to win a three-peat, which would put him in a company of John Wooden, and that's it. John Wooden and him.
Right.
But otherwise, if you go, oh man, all we got is Jay Wright, I wouldn't feel that way at all. I think that'd be a tremendous get. The question is, can you get Jay Wright? Because many of NBA teams have contacted Jay Wright's people, and he has turned them down. And here's the thing about the Lakers job. It's the Lakers. It brings prestige. I get that. But at the same time, it brings a certain kind of drama.
Mm-hmm.
It brings a certain kind of drama that a lot of guys, especially guys who are talking about, this is my first head coaching job in the NBA. I want to be set up for success. I don't know if everybody wants to sign up for the drama of the Lakers. And I think Rob Pelinka knows that. Jeannie Buss has to have an idea of that, which is why they were trying to make a commitment to a coach, to Hurley, and say, look, we're going to sign you to a 5-year deal. We're not going to be doing this in and out with our coaching. We're going to commit to you and let you build this team. And I love that idea, because I think you have to pick a guy and let him implement his program and ride with him. So I love that. And maybe they should do the same thing for Jay Wright. If they can't get Hurley, though, then go all in on Jay Wright. I think Jay Wright is right there in terms of what he could do for the Lakers. I would put both Jay Wright and Hurley way ahead of somebody like JJ Redick. And I get it. He's played in the NBA. He has a great IQ for basketball, all that. But what he's never been a coach at a high level at all. Not high school, not college. I just don't think he has the cred to rank with people like Jay Wright and Bob Hurley. So I know Laker Nation is keeping their fingers crossed that they want to get Bob Hurley. But if you get Jay Wright, you're going to be fine. Trust me.
And if you're JJ Redick, you're sitting here like, damn, really? You're going to go after Jay now? Like, I can't beat him out. Come on, guys. Like, it's a tough spot to be in, because for a solid couple of weeks, you were the guy. And, the crazy thing is, Mo, we don't really know how close he was to being the guy. All the reports said he was the guy. All of the rumor and innuendo said he was the guy. But we don't know the conversations he had with the Lakers. We don't know if the Lakers were telling him that he was the guy, and then they just pivoted and Dan Hurley popped up and now Jay Wright is popping up. We don't know what they've told JJ Redick. We assume that there's been dialogue there, but we don't know if they were like, yeah, you're the guy, we just got to work some things out, or if it was more a conversation of, we have some interest. And then since that was the only real name being talked about with the interest, the media just ran with it.
Right.
And he was on the top of their list, but maybe their list wasn't complete yet. And they hadn't really gotten to the college basketball side of things yet. And then they got there, and they have two candidates who, like you said, are superior choices to JJ Redick. So I see a lot of empathy to JJ this morning. And my only comment to that is, you don't know what he's actually been told. So don't feel sorry for someone if it could really be a situation where he may never have been as close as we think he was to getting this head coaching job. Now, if it comes out, months down the road that it was like a handshake agreement, you're going to be the next head coach of the Lakers, we just got to work through all the red tape, and then come to find out they completely pivoted away from him. Okay, I might feel a certain way for JJ Redick. Sure. But unless we find out that kind of story, don't feel sorry for JJ Redick, because, Mo, you know how it works. Anytime a coaching vacancy pops up, numerous names are attached to it, and many of those names were never really serious contenders, but the media just ran with it. So don't feel sorry for JJ this morning until we actually know how close he was to that job. But, Mo, another rumor coming out of Lakerland this morning is that they are not drafting Bronny with the number 17 draft pick. And nor do I think they should. Let's start there, Mo. I don't think they should draft Bronny with the number 17 draft pick. I think they should move that pick and try to bring in assets to help the team win this next season. So it makes sense. But it is interesting. It is interesting that we're taking a hard stance with Bronny, because no matter what anybody says, Mo, in the back of our minds, we know that there is still some truth to LeBron wanting to play with Bronny. And I know that he has worked overtime to downplay it, and he has even come out and said, I don't need to play with him. I just want to play in the league. Shut up, LeBron James. You literally talked for years about how your dream was to end your career playing on the same team as your son. And you just hope one day that that could actually happen. Well, here we are on the precipice of it happening. And you can say all you want that it's not a big deal anymore, and people just kind of misunderstood your words for all those years. No, we're not going to buy that. But it is interesting that the team that seems to want you more than anything seems to be taking the unofficial stance of, well, it's not coming to us at 17. Again, I understand it's the right move for the team, Mo, but it's interesting because also you what's best for the team and what's best for LeBron aren't always the same thing. As crazy as that sounds, they're not always the same thing. And taking the stance of Bronny ain't coming here at 17, that may not be what's best for LeBron. What do you make of that, Mo?
I thought about this for a while, but you know what? It might be what's best for LeBron. Remember, he would love to play with his son, but not more than he would love to win a 5th ring.
Well, that's also true. That's also
not more than you want to. And to win a 5th ring, you have to bring in already accomplished players that can help you. If they have an opportunity to bring in a 3rd star versus drafting Bronny, you're going to bring in the 3rd star. Again, the idea of playing with his son, I'm sure that would be phenomenal. Not more phenomenal than winning that 5th ring. I think that so I don't know if it's a hard line. I think LeBron came to the Lakers and said, the Bronny thing's not a deal breaker. I still want to win. Love to play with the guy, but I still want to win.
That's a cool cat, let me tell you. That guy, he's down to the earth, salt of the earth kind of people.
Right. Correct.
But if we can't play together, it's okay. He'll be all right. I'll be all right.
Yeah, I'll see him at the crib. Okay.
Mo, before we get out of here, we're gonna close with this. I know you're gonna be excited. Oh, no. Zach Wilson is in the mix for QB1 in Denver. That is the news coming out of Denver to start off the week. Zach Wilson is in the mix officially, according to sources with the Broncos. Obviously, he would have to earn it. Obviously, he would have to probably do a lot in camp and in the preseason to have that opportunity, but he is in the mix. He talked about being in the mix. He talked about how his mind is right for the first time in a long time. Mo, don't we know how this story is going to end?
Maybe. You know what? Look, here's an opportunity for Sean Payton to prove once and for all that he's a terrific quarterback guru, right? We all know that if Zach Wilson does a workout, he's very impressive. Arm strength,
great in shorts,
terrific. Probably really good in 7-on-7.
Yep.
And then you put him in the game, and it's 11-on-11, and it matters. And defenses switch up, and then they walk the safety down, or they're playing a cover 3 the whole 9, and he struggles with that. If Sean Payton can coach up Zach Wilson, I mean, he would become a god among coaches if he can do that. And if Zach Wilson could turn his career around, good for that young man. I don't think you and I disagree that he has the talent to be in the NFL. I think that we're in that lane where we're like, yeah, the talent to be in the league, but probably as a backup.
And again, the one thing we have always said about Zach Wilson, because at times, being fair, at times it's hard to highlight positives about Zach because of his play. But the one thing that we have always said about Zach is that he's still young. He's still young. And if he ever got into a system that, no offense, Jet fans, that wasn't the New York Jets, with a defensive-minded head coach, with a revolving door of offensive coordinators, if he ever got into a system with some offensive prowess around him, could he be more? And we never knew because we haven't seen him in that. So you're right. It would be interesting to see what he looks like in a different system because we've seen him with the Jets his entire career. So would he look like a different quarterback? But Mo, my issue is it's great that you're competing for quarterback one. But let's say something happened and Zach Wilson is named the starting quarterback for week 1 of the NFL season. You're not going to be there for long. It's not your team. So I feel like you're always going to have Bo Nix sitting behind you as the guy that is really going to be the starting quarterback of this team, unless you pull a Geno Smith. If you pull a Geno Smith in Seattle a couple of years ago and you're named the starter because Bo Nix isn't ready, and then you just come out and you never let it go, different story. But if you play anything towards the median of what you've played throughout your entire NFL career, even if you win it week 1, you're not the starter for the long-term future of that team.
No, I agree. He's even though he's much younger than Russell Wilson, I feel like he's in the same position as Russell Wilson. You're a placeholder till Bo Nix is ready.
Good show on a Monday. Take us to the end, Mo.
Thank you guys so much for joining Chris and I this morning. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at the Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
Make sure you're back here, same time, same place tomorrow. JG is back to talk more Major League Baseball stuff. We're going to discuss the career of one Darren Waller, who just recently announced his retirement. We're going to talk NFL holdouts. And of course, we're going to talk a little Caitlin Clark because you can't go a week without discussing Caitlin Clark at some point. All of that and more. Coffee and sports. It's the morning show powered by Wire to Wire.